Hello everyone. Welcome back to Let's Learn Together program. My name is Eva. Thank you for joining us. For those that are with us for the first time, this is a program of webinars initiated by Microsoft Croatia with the intention to bring educational materials closer to teachers and educators across Europe. Our guest today is Mrs. Carol Rainbow from the United Kingdom. Carol holds trainings for teachers to enable them to use ICT to enhance teaching and learning, but has a special interest in e-safety. You will have a chance to ask Carol questions after her presentation. In case you have any difficulties using live meeting, our technical support Marco is here with us. Don't hesitate to contact him through chat. Carol, thank you very much for accepting our invitation to participate. It is a pleasure to have you with us. So let's hear more about this interesting topic.
Okay, thank you. Hello everybody and welcome. I just need to put my slides up. Okay, I thought everybody could see chat. Can you see chat? Because I put a little message saying, as you join us, please type who you are and where you come from and what age you teach. Can people see the chat box or not?
Okay, these are short instructions how to use them. So you have to click on the little icon. It's in the upper right corner, and then you can type in your comments in there. If you have any problems, just contact me or Marco, and we'll help you out. But this is in short how to use it.
Great. Okay, so it doesn't matter if it doesn't work at all, that's not important. Okay, so we're going to consider e-safety and young learners. In actual fact, I say young learners, and of course it's for everybody because we're all learners on the internet and we all need to keep ourselves safe. There are various different dangers. Now I'd like you all to have a look at the next picture, a little set of slides, a little set of pictures. Somebody's managed to get in and type hi everybody. It's Eva. If you can see chat, I'd like you to try and just put in one word, one of the e-safety dangers that you can recognise from this screen. I'll give everybody a few seconds, and if you can see one internet danger, one e-safety issue, if you can type it into the chat. Not sure that chat's going to be working.
I think our participants are not really used to using this.
Okay, no worry at all. Okay, well I guess you can all see the slide. So you've got things like, you won £25,000, press here. Click here for a free iPhone, iPad, 50% off, buy now. So those three are all very similar. Those three items are all offering something for nothing. And you can guarantee if something is offering something for nothing, that's not the case, is it? It never has been. So that's one danger. If you're actually clicking on things like this, you've won £25,000, press here. It's probably either trying to get your address, your phone number, your bank details. It could be giving you a virus. There's all sorts of dangers. Yes, it is a danger, isn't it? We could meet in the park later. Well done. Somebody spotted that. So we've got down the bottom there, we've got we could meet in the park later. And at the very, very top there you've got, you know that CD. Now this is text chat and this is what children use a lot. You know that new CD you wanted, take a pic with your top off and I'll get it for you. So those two, yes, are a pair, a matching pair, aren't they? And that's the danger. It's stranger danger, isn't it? It's the danger of grooming or some sort of unwelcome contact. And the thing is, that sounds ridiculous. I mean, you might all say the same, and I certainly did the first time I heard it. Nobody just lets their top off and take a picture. That's absolute rubbish. But if you think about it, think about the children in school, think about your own children at home. And you say in the morning that you're out of bed, you say, for goodness sake, fetch that top off and put your shirt on, your t-shirt on, fetch your drama pants off and put your pants and trousers on. When you go swimming with school, you say, get clothes off, put clothes on. In PE lessons, get clothes off, put clothes on. Children, and right up to young teens, are used to being told to do exactly that. And so they're not phased. They will quite happily take their top off and take a picture. It means nothing to them because they don't understand the grooming aspects. They're too young for that. So two aspects there. You've got this trying to get something from nothing, trying to harvest your personal information, and then you've got the grooming aspect. Now, if you look again at the other ones, you've got you are, they look like two letters, but again, this is text chat. You are so stupid even your mum hates you. You've got teacher's pet, nerdy pants. No one likes you, you smell. Okay, so 3 or more there. That's the cyberbullying aspect, isn't it? Children and young learners, in fact it goes right through adulthood as well, can be bullied by phone messages. So that's the third aspect that we needed to look at. And then right at the very top you've got status quo, well-known Victorian bands. Yes, you all agree with that? And at the bottom we've got Henry VIII died of an overdose last year, drugs overdose. It looked ridiculous to us because we know the facts, but children and young learners are very prone to misinformation. They don't know, and unless they're taught how to verify information, then it's just information and they can take it as gospel truth. So it is something that needs considering. And I'm trying to move on a slide. So, what risks are we trying to guard against when we talk about e-safety? Well, there they are. There's the 4 different aspects that we've just looked at. So you've got the commercial aspect with adverts, spam, sponsorship, tracking information and gathering personal information, possibly illegal downloading of music and everything else, videos, financial scams. You've won £25,000, big year, it's not going to happen. Then you've got the aggressive, which is the cyberbullying, being bullied, being harassed, bullying others. Then you've got the sexual side, which is possibly pornographic material being found, spotted or requested, unwelcome sexual content, meeting strangers, creating and uploading materials. And then finally you've got the values. This can be bias, information, it's the misinformation, bias, racist. It can be, imagine young teens going in looking for self-harming groups, dieting groups. You get young girls going for the bulimia type of groups and starving themselves. You get some young boys being persuaded perhaps into terrorism and looking for bomb-making equipment. So those are the sorts of dangers, just broadly speaking. And it's worth thinking that these are dangers that both face young learners and they can be actually part of, so they can be actor and participant in all of these different aspects. So it's not one way at all. So, thinking about going out into the city streets alone. Think about giving your young person, your own children that you're teaching right from any age all the way through school. Do you let them out in the city streets in the middle of the night alone? And the answer is, of course you don't. You take them out holding their hands on lead reins. You teach them to cross the road. You get, in the primary schools, we get the policemen to come in, teach the children green cross code and road safety and all of these things. We get the police to come in, teach them danger, stranger danger. We take them on journeys, we escort them, we make sure they're going in little groups, to go with their friends, just to the corner shop, then to the neighbours, gradually building up until they get to being probably 15 or 16, and then yes, by then we do trust them to go out into the city streets at night because they've learned all the dangers, they've learned how to cope. Think also of swimming. When they're literally taken to the swimming pool, there's a guard there making sure they don't drown, there's fences, there's floats, there's swimming lessons. We teach the children how to swim. We put all these safeguards in place. They don't actually go on their own to the swimming pool, probably until they're, again, young teens. And we have to keep that in mind for the internet. The internet is just the same. The swimming pool isn't dangerous. The city streets at night basically are dangerous. Might be, I suppose. And the internet is not dangerous. It's the young people's behaviours when they're there that we have to guard against. We have to teach them how to behave and how to act in certain situations. So the benefits, well of course we all know the benefits. Educational games, programs, research, information, communicate with people all around the world. It's great now. I don't think I'm in the same country as many of you, and you could all be in different countries, to be honest, I don't know. People all around the world can take part in these sort of opportunities. We can share resources, we can share ideas, we can have a chat a bit later once I finish talking. I could go shopping, I can buy stuff anywhere, I can book holidays all over the place, I can keep in touch with family and friends when they're not here. Loads of wonderful benefits. Why is learning with technology a good thing? Because children enjoy it, they're motivated by it, they love learning on the internet. It can improve all of their skills. I guess a lot of you might be involved in teaching languages, so they can be talking to native language speakers in whatever their target language is. It helps everybody. The internet is a wonderful resource, there's no doubt about it. So we have to consider why there's a problem, or where problems are likely to occur. Well, the biggest problems is that young people are sharing their personal information. They're taking part in things like instant messaging, which is fantastic, social networking, which is wonderful, we all do social networking. They have mobile phones, they love online games, they take part in virtual worlds. All of these used to be very clearly defined aspects, and we could put children in an area and to a certain extent know what they were doing, who they were talking to and who they were mixing with. But now they've all got very, what's the word it's gone? They're all coming together into certain bigger forms like Facebook, and thousands of our children and young learners are on Facebook. Now then they've got the games, they've got the instant messaging, they've got the social networking, they've got the mobile phones so they can put their photographs up and things like that. None of these technologies are dangerous, but we have to teach the children how to use them safely. So I'm going to consider online chat and instant messaging. Now, I guess I'd love you to be able to talk to me, but I don't think you're seeing the shared notes as I'm seeing them. I love instant messaging. I chat to my daughter when I don't see her for a few days. I chat to any of my children, and I've got 4 grown-up children, all with children and families, so I chat to them. I chat to work colleagues. I chat to friends that are in different countries. My friends list consists basically of people I know, mostly colleagues or family. Children love collecting friends. There's almost a competition to see who can have the most friends. I've got a limited number of friends, as I say, people I know, people I work with. Quite happy to add a friend if I need to have a chat with them, but I know who they are. Children just love friends. So they gather their friends' friends, and their older brothers' friends, and their older sisters' friends, and their cousins' friends, and their friends' friends. And very soon, children have got friends that go way beyond the scope of people they know. And so they've got stranger danger actually beginning to get into their online lives. Now, there is a film here that I would love to show you, but I'm not showing films. There's basically not time. What I'm going to do is try and squash a 6-hour course into about 45 minutes. So I'm not going to show you the films, but what we're going to do after is Eva's going to send you all the presentations so that you'll be able to watch the films, because they're all different films for different ages anyway. So you'll be able to choose the ones that are right for your children if you want to use them in class lessons and everything like that. But this film, it's called You Never Know Who You're Talking To, and it is 2 little girls having a conversation. So we're sat on the side of the computer just like I am here, and she's chattering to another child on the internet. And this little child, they chat to each other, and what's your name and where do you live? And no, it's actually not as direct as that. It's what's your name, and then they say where's your mum and dad work, and what are you doing, and what are you doing at school? And then the one child, the one we can't see, says, are your teachers mean? And the little girl this side says, no, it's a lovely school. And the other one says, oh, I wish I could come there. Where do you go to school? And that's where it starts. And then this little girl, just thinking she's talking to a friend, gives away all of her personal information. And the film closes with a man, the other child's father. in theory, picking up this little girl to go and play with his daughter. But of course, through the length of the film, and it's about 5 minutes, you realise that the little girl is not talking to another child at all. She's talking to this man all along. Pretty horrifying film. It's more horrifying for adults because adults know where it could lead. It's actually not so horrifying for children because they just think stranger danger. They don't understand where it could lead. So I would use this with 10, 11, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds maybe, just to look about what's right and what's gone wrong in the film. So a very useful film to think about online chat and protecting your own personal information. So this is the big question. How can we know who we're talking to? So you can all see me. You've got a picture of who I am. You can see that I'm a bit older, you know, already, because I've got a family, grown-up family. So you've got a good idea, because you can see me and you can hear me talking, who I am. However, I don't know any of you. I just see a list of names. It means absolutely nothing to me. So I could be starting a conversation with one of you in a minute, and how would I know who you are? If I do a text chat conversation, I can't see you, I can't hear you. You could be any age, any gender, and you might be being very friendly, but you might not have my best interests at heart, and it's hard to tell that. What I had planned was that you could all try and write down one question that you could put on a poster for your children. I was hoping we might have a list of questions to try and work out who, for the children, who they're talking to. I'm not sure that that's going to happen. If you can see it and you feel like writing, please do. So we've got a young girl here, look. She says, "Hi, you sound real cute. How old are you? What do you like doing after school?" So it's a chat conversation going on again. And she probably thinks she's talking to a, 14-year-old? She looks like she could be 14, 12, 14, doesn't she? And this is a ploy I use a lot when I'm teaching children. So there we are, look, I'm 14, a bit of a fitness fanatic. I often go powerlifting after school. Of course, he's not what she expects. Now, this man, apologies to this man who's putting his photograph quite publicly on the web. And it looks like, you know, from the permissions I can use it. He's probably a lovely man, but he just makes the point. What we did the other day with a group of children, we had a school, and the children were talking to another school on the internet, and it's absolutely fantastic. Beautiful conversation going, and it was in a museum, so they were talking about artifacts. And then the little girl who was talking on stage to the other people in the other schools said, "I'd love to meet you." So the man who had been set up, and he was just in the next room, walked through the door, and he was a, I don't know, 50, 60-year-old man talking to a whole class, but basically one 7 or 8-year-old girl, and again, a bit of a shock because it's not what they expect. So it's something that needs addressing. Children need to know who they're talking to, and they need to have a method of actually finding out, or they need to protect their information until they're really sure. So there are two films here about meeting strangers. Matt's 40 New is a fantastic film. It's made by a company in the UK called CEOP, the Child Child Exploitation and Online Protection Centre. And they make lots of training films. In fact, they've made both of these here. Matt 40 New is an older teen. He's probably a 16, 17-year-old boy who arranges to meet a young girl, 15, 16-year-old girl, on the beach. I mean, it's probably every young man's dream. Sounded perfect, private, deserted beach, young girl, all sounds wonderful. And it doesn't work out like that for him. So a useful film if you're dealing with older teens, because it's not just little girls that are at risk. And then the bottom one, Jigsaw, is a brilliant film for young children. And that is about social networking, and again, about meeting strangers, and about keeping your profile safe and your photographs private and things like that. Two very good films. The bottom one is where a little girl walks out into the street with a big for sale notice and puts it up in front of her house, and it's got a gorgeous picture of her on it. And through the course of the film, people react to this poster, and it's just like she was doing it on the internet. She was actually doing it on the internet, putting pictures of herself for people to talk to her and everything else. But it didn't go perfectly for this little girl either. So 2 useful films for working with children about meeting strangers. So, social networking. How many people love social networking? My guess is we all do. We all love Facebook, Bebo, MySpace. Look at them, Flickr, Yammer. There's hundreds and hundreds of them. And pretty much everybody that uses the internet takes part in social networking. And there is definitely a fear and a danger in here. And it's mostly to do with profiles. Keeping your profile safe. Young children put photographs up of themselves. I've looked around lots of profiles, and I saw a gorgeous picture the other day. 2 probably 11-year-old children. They looked as though they were 14, 15. They got makeup, they got sexy clothes. It looked like they were probably just going to a disco or something like that. So they had dressed themselves up and taken photographs and shared them with the whole world. And of course, again, they think it's completely innocent. They've no reason not to at their age. Also, social networking can be a cyberbullying issue, and we'll come on to think about cyberbullying in a few seconds. Excuse me, I'm really sorry. I've got a terrible cold. Sorry. So social networking, but mostly the profiles. Children, young teens, all young learners, and in fact teachers themselves need to be taught to lock their profiles down, make them private. I mean, children should not be on things like MySpace, Bebo and Facebook. There's a minimum age of 13. So we can't condone children going onto it, but we know children are on it. If we know children are on it, they need to be safe. So they need to lock everything down, make it really secure, really private, so that other people can't get in and find them. Of course, a lot of you will be working with children that are 13 and upwards, 13 young learners. And the social networking then, think about youngsters, 15, 16, 17-year-olds, putting all their photographs of their parties online. And then where does that lead them? All sorts of problems, especially when they come to go to college and university and everything like that. So, posting online information and photographs. Again, 3 educational films. 2 of these at least have been made by CEOP again. So Sarah, everyone knows your name. This is about a young girl, probably 14, and she's posted her pictures online. And she goes out in the town with her friends. And as she goes up some escalators, some boys turn around and say, "Oh, that's Sarah." And she goes into a restaurant, and one of the waiters said, "Oh, what are you doing tonight, Sarah?" And she goes into a cinema, and the usher opens the door and says, "What colour underwear are you wearing, Sarah?" And all this, of course, spooks the young lady. But she's put this information online and people can recognise her. So that's a very good film for teaching people about putting their information online. Think Before You Post is a young girl who puts her one picture online, and then she gets some rather unsavoury characters pulling it down and looking at it. She keeps pulling it off the poster board at school, and every time she pulls it off, another one's behind it. So once you put it up there, you can't ever get it down because somebody else has got it. That's the message. So once you've posted your picture, it's public. There's no way of actually getting it back. And then the third one is consequences, and this is a very useful starting point for older, not children, probably from 12 upwards. And this is where a young girl has been blackmailed into doing more and more and more things that she doesn't like, because once the child's done something wrong, so perhaps she got that message saying, "Fetch your top off and take a picture of yourself," and she did that. And that's the sort of thing that happens at the start. She put that on a memory stick and hid it in the place the paedophile asked her to do it. And then, of course, it got worse. and asked her to do something else. And she got upset. But having already made the mistake and done one thing wrong, she's then frightened of going to parents or teachers or anyone else for help. So one of the biggest messages for all of our young teens is that if you do something wrong, it's not your fault, it's not you that's wrong. It's somebody else's problem, somebody else's fault. You need to go and talk to your parents or a teacher or any trusted adult and tell them what's wrong. You're not at fault, you're not in trouble. That's the big message all the way through. And the big message for parents of teens and young learners is don't get angry, don't shout at them and say, I've told you not to go into that website, you're asking for trouble, but to support them. Make sure that you keep the channels of communication open, because if they can't talk to their parents, they can't talk to their teachers, they'll go and talk to friends. And friends the same age are not going to give sound advice, they're not going to be able to help. It's just they're going to be all digging themselves deeper into this hole of trouble that they've found. So we just mentioned posting the party photographs on Facebook, posting pictures of yourself smoking, pictures of yourself drunk, pictures of yourself in compromising situations, on holiday, on the beach, wearing very little in the way of clothes. Who knows what the photographs are. So what happens then when children try to go to college? Young people go to college, apply for college places. They immediately go to Facebook and look up the pupils to try and determine what sort of pupils they're actually working with. And it can be very, very powerful. College places are won and lost on the Facebook. So that's a big lesson for teens. And this film's here to help and demonstrate that. As we go on then, we've got protecting your reputation video, and that's a really nice one to use, and you can use it with adults as well as children, teachers as well, if you're doing teacher training, anything like that. How to protect yourself when you're working online, very useful video. The last one is a fun video. It's called One Last Click, and it's a youngster at work who is spending far too much time social networking, chatting to friends, putting his status on Facebook while he's at work. Unfortunately, his boss was watching, so One Last Click was literally the one last click for that particular job. So a very useful video to use with young learners to start to help them get their social networking in the appropriate place and the appropriate time. All the time, all day, when you're working, when you're at school, when you're trying to get through exams or trying to do college studying is not good. That people need to try and get it into perspective themselves. They need to allocate themselves lumps of time when they go and do social networking, and lumps of time when they focus on their work or their job or whatever. Sorry, I've just got to have a drink. I do apologise, I didn't have a cold yesterday. This has just come for today's talk. Then we've got mobile phones. Now, a few years ago, of course, none of our learners had mobile phones. They were just a tool for communicating. You just pick them up, made a phone call, and put them back in your pocket. Very different now. They've got Bluetooth technology. They access the web and music and video and film. They've got cameras, they can take pictures of each other, they can take video of each other, and they've got instant messaging facilities. Certainly the newest ones, mine has got Facebook on it, it's got the internet on it, it's got absolutely everything. It's a little computer. A phenomenal amount of teens swap pictures by Bluetooth, and actually pornography by Bluetooth. An incredible number of our teens and young learners learn about sex from pornography that's passed around on the mobile phone networks. Because they often learn about sex from pornography, they are not sensitized to pictures. They're not bothered by pictures of the human body, nakedness, semi-nakedness. They're not fazed by it in the same way certainly I was when I was a young teen. A naked body was something to be quite shocked about when I was a kid. And now children are used to it. Children, young people, young learners are all used to it. They're used to taking photographs of each other, sometimes not as nice photographs as we'd like. Sometimes fun situations. I saw a couple of boys the other day, one was mooning, so the other one took a photograph of him. Now when that sort of thing gets up onto Facebook and colleges see that sort of thing, you can imagine their reaction to that. So lots of things there to be concerned about with mobile phones. Mobile phones are wonderful, give fantastic access to learning, but also fantastic access to the internet dangers. The opportunity for cyberbullying here is not brilliant, is it? This is where children can send little messages to each other. Sexting is a whole field on its own. Illegal content and sharing, illegal downloads and file sharing, all things to be considered and to try and teach the children about. And then we've got one of the newest worries for people in e-safety this year has been the GPS tracking. Many youngsters are using apps on their smartphones, and there's things like Foursquare, and I think it's GoWala, something like that, where people can log into a place and they actually tell the whole world where they are. Great fun. They become the mayor of a place, and I don't know half of it. I'm not really into these sort of games. But they leave signposts about where they are. And for people that might be stalking them, tracking them, or trying to follow them or whatever, it's definitely an issue that's beginning to put our teens in danger. And so there's a lot of work done now. I mean, at one time it was brilliant that parents could actually track their children. But if parents can track the children, so can other people. And all of this technology is already available and already creating some sorts of issues for our teens. So the answers aren't there yet. It's only just becoming a problem, but people are rapidly working on shielding so that they've got the GPS, but they're also protected themselves. There are all sorts of solutions being worked on, but that's a new way forward. Actually, I want to go straight to the... Oh, I've lost my slide. I want to look at this slide before I go back to cyberbullying. Sexting is a huge issue. And we've got 3 cases here. Now, I just actually want to tell you a little bit about one of these cases, and I've actually written it here. The top one, sexting. Oh no, sorry, it's the second one, the sexting case. Now, this is a young boy, he's about 17. He had a girlfriend, and he had a nude picture of his girlfriend, which is incredibly common. And when they broke up and they had a big row, and in anger, he sent this picture around all of his contacts, which actually covered her mum, her dad, her auntie, her grandma. He covered some of his teachers and some of his friends. So having and distributing pictures of teens, of course, is an offence. So he committed various offences by this act, apart from upsetting everybody, of course. He committed various offences, and he was taken to court. And this child, 17-year-old boy now, is on the sex offenders register. He couldn't live with his dad because his dad lives by school. He got thrown out of college. He virtually wrecked his life by one stupid moment when he was just a youngster. So, absolutely terrifying situation. And here I've got a few little quotes here from an article which I'll read to you. I haven't got time, yes I have. Sexting or sexually explicit texts are increasingly implicated in bullying, the photos circulating beyond its intended recipients and out to classmates and friends. And this partly sign, of course, of how normalised sexualised images have become to our children. What was once soft porn is now absolute commonplace to them. And one 14-year-old said, I don't think what I'm doing is anything different to what Brittany does. Now, I guess a lot of you will have heard of Brittany, a pop star in this country. And I love the attention. So 14-year-olds are sending naked or semi-naked pictures of themselves to their friends because they love the attention. And that's the 14 and 15-year-old is the age group where it's very prevalent. Statistically, you get more attention in online networking sites if you put up photographs of yourselves, and the more explicit the photographs, the more responses you get. People who do this, it's often a self-compensatory thing. Teens can be quite, they can lack self-esteem, they can be quite nervous, quite shy in real life, and then go the opposite way on the internet. Also, teens actually say themselves, so we've got young Sally who's 17, she said, I sent sex to my boyfriend when I was 15. He was my first boyfriend and I felt safe doing it. I had no idea when we broke up, he sent them on to everybody else. I regret it, but at least I didn't sleep with him. So we've got another thing there, that by sending sexually explicit photographs, they're not taking part in sex, which obviously is that's a good thing while they're young, but there are still problems about the photographs because there's all sorts of issues around the photographs. Last year, a young teenager in Ohio hanged herself after a nude photograph that she sexted to her boyfriend was sent around the school when they broke up. And it's a tragedy, an absolute tragedy that something like that could happen. And as the writer in this case says, if we don't give children the right to say no, we can't expect them to say no when we want them to. And so this teaching them that they have got the right to choose when they're photographed and what happens with their photographs is a big part of what we need to teach them as teens. And then are sexters breaking the law? Yes, in a lot of cases they are. Sexting by young people is likely to involve, and then in quotation marks, taking an indecent photograph of a child, which is a serious criminal offence. And depending on the circumstances, it may also amount to inciting a child to perform a sexual act, which is another crime. In some cases, engaging in a sexual activity with a child is another crime. They're all separate offences. And then looking at the pictures could be determined as voyeurism, and that is another crime. And then forwarding the pictures to more children, more young people, is another crime. So lots and lots of actual criminal offences there in what the teens are doing with their mobile phones, quite commonplace today. All right, I'm going to go back to the slides. I'm sorry about this, and I'm now going to look at cyberbullying, because again, this is largely through mobile phones. Oh, I'm running out of time. Sorry. Cyberbullying, the use of information and communication technology, particularly mobile phones and the internet, to deliberately upset somebody else. Now, this is a deliberate act. This is not children getting in a bad temper and saying, I hate you on the phone, not a one-off. It's not the same. It's when it's deliberately upsetting somebody and it's ongoing. So it's text after text after text. Quite often, the person who's receiving the text doesn't know where it's come from. Who's the perpetrator? There's a brilliant film here at the bottom of this slide. Look, it's called Let's Fight It Together. And this is Joe's story. Joe's a young teen, gets lots of messages. He's actually quite bright in school and he gets picked on for that. His teacher knows there's something wrong, his mum knows there's something wrong, all his friends seem to turn against him. Very, very useful film. And what's more useful is if you go to the website, there is the film by another little video by his mum, by his teacher, by the little girl who starts it all, by his best friend. There's a whole set of films all giving the different view of what's happened and what's gone on, and the fact they knew something was wrong, they didn't know what, and the little girl says, well, it's a joke, it just started as a joke, can't take a joke, all that sort of thing. All sorts of things you can imagine, but a very useful teaching resource with lesson plans and everything else tied in with it. Lots of interesting information there. So is cyberbullying different to any other sort of bullying? And of course it is, because it's 24/7. If you get bullying out in the city streets, out in the playground or anything like that, it's there, it happens, and people will walk away and it's over. What happens with cyberbullying is it goes on the telephone, it's in your own home, it's in your own bedroom, it's always with you. So it is very different, and people need very firm ways of actually dealing with it. Right, I'm going to try and skip on very quickly now. We've done sexting, downloading music. Just quick look at downloading music. Okay, do you know the difference between these sites? iTunes is legal, Spotify is legal, LimeWire is just downloading illegally. It's what teens often do. BitTorrents can be both legal and illegal. Children need teaching about which are which. There's lots of information to help, but pupils need help. Online gaming is absolutely fantastic. It teaches you wonderful leadership skills, teaches you all sorts of things. There's massive educational benefit in lots of these games, but there are problems with addiction, and there's 2 films there showing you the sort of problem with addiction. I'm zooming through now because my time's up. Online gambling, again, not a problem for the majority of people. The majority of people have a bit of fun at one game here and there, but this little film is about a college student who's got hooked into online gambling and ends up in trouble. Right, massive amount of legal guidance for ICT use in education by JISC. Wonderful film and a newsletter that you can sign up to. I'm not going to go through that. Is your place of work safe? Lots of questions that you can have a look at later on and think about in your own situation. Issues to consider. Who is or needs to be responsible for his safety? Who needs to be involved? What support is there if somebody says, I'm being bullied, I'm in trouble, somebody asked me to do this? So lots of things to think about there for your wherever you work, and I don't know, to be honest, what the situation for most of you is, so it's probably just as well to leave you to think about those for your situation. Take it back to your teachers that you work with. Now, what we've got going really well in the UK is getting the children to make charters. At one time we gave them acceptable use policies, so we as adults gave them a list of rules. You will do this, you will do this, you will do this, you will do this, you won't do this, you won't do this, you won't do this. And that's all very well, except the children are no part of it, so they have no sense of what it means to them. So what we've started to do in the UK is get children themselves, young learners, I shouldn't call them children, students themselves, to make their own safety charters. And this is one that we've just been working on with a group of children for the whole of Oxfordshire. Well, they're saying, with guidance, we have the right to enjoy the benefits of the internet and mobile technology, as well as the responsibility to be to use it appropriately. We have the right to keep our personal information private, and the responsibility to share it safely so to know who to share it with. We have the right to learn how to question information, and the responsibility to recognise it might not be accurate. The responsibility to check who we're talking to on our mobile phone, and the right to refuse to talk to anybody. The responsibility to pass on concerns about people who contact us, and the right to ask for help from adults. The right not to be filmed or photographed without giving our permission, and the responsibility not to do it to others. The right not to have videos or images of ourselves passed around on mobile phones. The responsibility not to do it. The right not to be bullied. The responsibility not to bully. The right to get help without getting in trouble. The responsibility to share problems quickly. And the responsibility, all of us, to learn how to use our mobile phones and the internet safely and respectfully without upsetting or hurting anyone. So that's a very useful exercise if you're in the sort of situation that where you can do that sort of thing with groups of young learners. Now, I have collected together over 100 sets of games, videos, information sites, booklets, training manuals, all sorts of things for e-safety in that particular website that's there, esafe.buzzinged.org.uk. As I say, you're going to receive the presentation very shortly, so you don't need to write anything down. You can go and have a look at that. There's all the resources I've mentioned and loads more there. And I have to just finish by saying, I'll come back to that one. All of the images I used are Flickr CC images, unless they were otherwise stated on the film. And I'll go back now to my contact details. I'm happy to talk to anyone on Skype, Live Messenger, but I don't just accept random requests. This is just the e-safety bit, you know. You can contact me by email in the first instance, and then I'm quite happy to talk to anybody about anything if I can help. So, are there any questions? I'm hoping Eva's going to bail me out here and help.
Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with us. I hope the information you have presented will help teachers and also parents to keep their kids safe online. So as Carol said, you will receive a link to the recording of this webinar, and we will also include a PDF file of this presentation, so you'll have access to all the resources that Carol has mentioned during her presentation. If you have any questions, you can ask them orally by turning on your microphone or by using the questions and answers tool. Okay, so Carol, what about schools? Who should be in charge for e-safety in schools?
In schools in this country, there's a recommendation that there is an e-safety coordinator, a person, nominated person responsible who does training, so they come on training courses with me or with people like me, and then they teach the rest of the staff, because it's a huge, huge issue, and people can expect some training in this country. They need training, let's face it. It's not something that people learn quickly and easily on their own. So we'd expect to have an e-safety coordinator, and that was one of my slides actually that I said they needed to take back to school and think about. So have you got a person responsible for e-safety who then goes and does all the training, who then is the person the children contact first if they've got a problem?
Okay,
that's
and
just
what
a
about
recommendation.
Okay. What about using social networks in schools? Should they be allowed? Do you in UK, do you allow it?
Some of them yes, and some of them no. I would advocate that yes, all of them should be allowed, and all of the children should be taught how to use them safely. If they're banned, then children, well, we know they get round the bans, they get round the filters and the systems that ban them, and then they are in, and people don't know they're in. So it's much better if it's all open and above board. All of these places are open for use. Children are taught how to use them safely. They're taught how to make their profiles private. They're taught when to use them, so they can give them perhaps, time at dinner time when they're allowed to use them. Not in lesson time, obviously. Although saying that, you see, some schools in the UK now are using Facebook to share resources and materials. So they'll make a Facebook page for their school or their group within school, and then they put web links, they put exercises, they put fun things, they put vocabulary lists, they put games on that website for children. So they are then being used in an educational sense as well. So
right,
there's a lot of good, but a lot of schools tend to completely block them and say, no, end of story, and that's not good.
Right. And related to Facebook, even though we know it's forbidden for kids under 13, many kids do open their profiles anyway. So with that in mind, would you advise parents to take part in opening the profile and then having access to it? Is that a way to monitor what they're doing?
Whatever I say now is going to be wrong. I can't advocate that any children under 13 have a Facebook profile, because it's not for under 13s. We know that under 13s have them. There's a whole lot of help on the Facebook website for people who want to report under 13s. And if under 13s are reported, they will be closed down by Facebook. But we know then that under 13s just move on and make a new one with a different name, And we know also that if they're doing that, they're not using it safely and they're not locking their profiles down, they're leaving their profiles open. So that people like me could go and search and probably find 100 or 200 or 300 or thousands even children's open profiles with photographs and all sorts. If it was my child and I thought they were really seriously going to have a Facebook page, I think I would go on with them, make sure their photographs were safe, make sure their profiles were locked down, and make sure that they only put their 13 and not 18, because if children think, all right, I'm going to pretend I'm 13, and they actually put themselves as 13, they're very, very protected by Facebook until they're 18. But if they actually say, well, no, I'm just going to say I'm an adult, and they put down their age is 18, then there is no protection at all built in by Facebook. So Facebook has a huge amount of protection built in from 13 to 18-year-olds, but none above that. So it's got to be up to the parents. The parents have to decide, A, whether they want them closed down and report them, or the schools have to decide whether they want them closed down and report them to Facebook. Or parents have to decide they don't like the children there, but they're going to help them keep safe while they are there, and so they go in and help them do all the safety profile bits and make sure the photographs are safe and actually teach them to be safe. So,
okay, that's very good advice. What other rules should parents set up for their kids while using the internet? Should the computer be in the living room? Should you, have your one eye on the monitor while you're cooking?
well, of course, that was the advice for years and years and years, but now children have got netbooks, laptops, all of which just travel around with the child and end up in the child's bedroom. Child in bedroom with laptop is very, very common now. Child with internet in the pocket is very, very common now, especially if we're not talking about small children. If we're talking about teens, I don't know what the percentage is. Something like 40% of teens in this country have got a phone that's able to access the internet. So there is no keeping one eye on it anymore. It used to be, and that used to be the advice, have the computer in a public place where everybody can see it, and one eye on the computer while you're cooking is exactly what we would have hoped for a few years ago. That doesn't happen now. It's got to be much more about education. It's got to be about charters and acceptable use agreements between parents and children, between schools and children, schools and teens. Otherwise, we can't keep them safe.
Do you think the parents should use some kind of a filter program software? Is that would that be useful, or for not to allow visiting certain sites?
There are some fantastic web filtering type of facilities for very young children. Sorry, I do apologise. For very young children, and I think probably if I was going to have a very young child buy the computer without me, I might choose those. But I think once the children get to about 10, they can find their way around all the filters. At some point the filters become obsolete because the children can get around them, and in that case I think they're probably a waste of time. Mm-hmm. And certainly, if one house is very, very rigidly filtered and children can't get where they want to get, they're going to go to their friends up the road where they know they can get. So it's a bit of a vicious circle. It's much more about education. As I say, I think the filters have got a place, and certainly for the extreme violence. There's some terrible things that I really would not like children to see. So I might be inclined to put one on. But children, by the time they get to 14 or 15, they're very inquisitive about the sex. They're going to start looking for sites that are going to teach them what they want them to know. If you've got them locked down, they're going to go somewhere else. They're not going to give up. They're going to get around the filters.
Right.
So I think, while young children, probably under 10, maybe there's a good case for having a filter in place to try and protect them. But beyond a certain point, no, I think it's a complete waste of time. They can get around it. We know that. Okay,
one last question for the end, and then I'm going to leave you to rest. I heard that you're pretty legendary and active in Second Life, where you also run courses. You use it as a teaching space, and as I read, you are the only one in UK that does that.
Well, I've got a couple of colleagues that work with me, and yes, we work in Second Life. We actually do e-safety training in Second Life, and anybody's welcome to join us if they want to. We do all this sort of stuff, and we do all the films and videos and discussions and poster making, and just, if you imagine a 4 days e-safety training, covering a lot of the same sort of stuff, but much more spread out with much more activities and discussion. That's what we do in Second Life. We do it over a month. We do 1 night a week for 4 weeks. The next one starting actually in, I think, could even be next week, starting next Tuesday, Wednesday night. Yes, avatars come in. I don't know whether people know of Second Life, but it's a virtual world. So you go on to secondlife.com and you join, and then you make your avatar name. So my avatar name is Carol RB, for like Carol Rainbow. Carol RB Roo, R-O-U-S, that's my 2 names. And I go in Second Life, make a little avatar, so I dress the little person as I want them to be dressed. And then I'm free to wander around this virtual world called Second Life. And I've got a big teaching space in there, so I get people in, I get them to come to me, track them all down, find them, get them over to where I am, and then we sit on bean bags around presentation screens. So we have a presentation screen, a video screen, and a collaborative writing screen in front of us, and then we do exercises between all of these screens. So mostly people need to be able to just get to me, find me, and then I'll teach them the rest. And just take part in e-safety training. It's very like this webinar type of room, but it's much more immersive because we're all there in the same space chatting to each other. We've got voice and text chat. So it's a really nice way of having lessons without having to travel, because we get people there from all around the world.
Okay, well, hopefully some of these participants here will join you and learn more about e-safety even through Second Life. Okay, it's time to wrap up this session. Thank you again, Carol, for being a part of this program. It was a pleasure to hear your presentation. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Watch out for our next webinar. You will receive an invitation into your inbox. If you have any comments or ideas, feel free to write to us. You will see the email address on the screen soon. I wish you all a nice day, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.